Following years of rumors, Clint Eastwood finally appeared in public with his secret child. When esteemed actor and director Clint Eastwood appeared at the premiere of his 2018 movie The Mule, he had a surprise for celebrity watchers. That's because in pictures uploaded to Instagram of all his kids, observers counted not the 7 whom he'd acknowledged before, but 8. The film legend had revealed a secret daughter. Anyone present at the birth of Eastwood in May 1930 might well have predicted big things for him. That's because he made a big entrance, weighing in at more than 11 pounds. He entered the world in San Francisco, but his childhood saw the family live in various places along the Pacific coast of the U.S. before making a home in Piedmont, California. Eastwood enjoyed a comfortable upbringing in East California. However, despite his family's affluence, he didn't excel at school. Low achievements saw him kept back at middle school and meant that he spent a summer having to try to catch up. High school didn't see Eastwood fare much better. He was responsible for a series of pranks that led to him being told not to continue his education at Piedmont High. A transfer to Oakland Technical High ensued, but it was never certain that Eastwood ever actually graduated. Although Eastwood did a short stint at Los Angeles City College and apparently had plans to study at Seattle University in the early 1950s, his school days were over. He subsequently entered the world of work instead, taking up a range of positions including in a grocery, as a fireman and even on the golf course as a caddy. However, Eastwood's working life was disrupted when the Army called. He was enlisted at the time of the Korean War. Eastwood wasn't called on to fight in the conflict, though, but instead spent the whole of his period in the forces at Fort Ord in the north of California, where he acted as a lifeguard. It wasn't that Eastwood's military life didn't bring any excitement, though. At one point, a bomber that he was flying in fell out of the sky due to a lack of fuel. It plowed into the sea close to Point Reyes, Northern California, and Eastwood simply swam a couple of miles to dry land. Sometime after that, Eastwood tried out with Universal. The studio signed him up, but he scored only small roles in films including Revenge of the Creature and Tarantula. After Universal had canned him, Eastwood struggled, although a change of agent did give him glimpses of success. Then came a breakthrough. Eastwood landed the part of cowboy Rowdy Yates in the CBS show Rawhide in 1958. It was a role that changed his fortunes. He never really loved the character, though, believing he was too old for it, but the show was nonetheless a huge hit. At last, Eastwood's career had taken off. Eastwood became a worldwide star in his next big venture. This was starring as the man with no name in Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns. All 3 of the movies pulled in big money when released in the U.S. in 1967, and his role as the terse gunfighter had made Eastwood a household name. Further success followed in U.S.-made westerns such as Hang 'em High and in police thriller Coogan's Bluff. The latter was directed by Don Siegel. Eastwood subsequently stated that Siegel had shared secrets of filmmaking that Eastwood himself would later put to good use. Eastwood's work with Siegel was to reach its peak in 1971, when he starred in Dirty Harry. Tough guy cop Harry Callahan proved to be a well-loved character, so much so that 4 more Callahan films would be made. And, of course, Eastwood uttered one of Hollywood's most well-known lines when he invited a bad guy to "Go ahead, make my day." Now a massive Hollywood star, Eastwood began to direct movies, too. Indeed, he has helmed more than 30 films out of the 50 that he has worked on. Not many actors have succeeded in the director's chair, and very few have received the acclaim that Eastwood has. Despite Eastwood's fame, though, he has never won an Oscar for acting. However, he has scooped the Golden Statuettes twice as a director. Both 1992's Unforgiven and 2004's $1 Million Baby earned Eastwood the award, and both also topped the Academy's list for Best Picture. And even as he approaches his 10th decade, Eastwood is still making hit films. The Mule features him as star, producer and director, and it has been the latest smash for the screen icon. Although the movie didn't receive rave reviews, Eastwood's acting did gain praise. On top of his movie stardom, Eastwood has also gained a reputation for womanizing over the years. He has married twice, the first time to Maggie Johnson in 1953. Even when married, though, he still hooked up with other women. And some of these liaisons were quite serious, with a few producing children. Eastwood and Johnson wed in Pasadena late in 1953. However, Eastwood is said to have believed that he hadn't really been ready for marriage. And reports have it that Johnson put up with having an open marriage. Eastwood certainly wasn't faithful. Indeed, Eastwood began a lasting relationship with rawhide stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis in 1959, which apparently went on for well over a decade. In 1964, Tunis had a child with Eastwood, named Kimber. However, the birth was kept quiet. In fact, the public didn't find out about Kimber until the National Enquirer outed her in 1989. It remains uncertain whether Johnson was aware of the child's birth. However, Eastwood's biographer Mark Elliott points out in American Rebel that it would have been nearly impossible for her not to have been given the difficulty of maintaining secrecy in Hollywood. Whatever Johnson did or didn't know about Kimber, it didn't prevent her from having children of her own with Eastwood. In 1968 she gave birth to Eastwood's first son, Kyle, and followed that with daughter Allison 4 years later. While Allison has made her career largely in the film industry, Kyle has moved into music as a jazz bassist. Although still married to Johnson, Eastwood set up home with Sandra Locke in 1975. The affair had become intense, with Eastwood telling the actress that he'd never been in love before, according to Locke's autobiography. She was to be heartbroken, however, when she subsequently found out that he'd seen other women while with her. For much of the time that Eastwood was with Locke, he remained married to Johnson, with the couple only divorcing in 1984. Locke had 2 terminated pregnancies in their time together and was particularly unhappy about the second. She claimed that Eastwood had insisted that a child wouldn't suit their relationship. Be that as it may, Eastwood did have children while with Locke, but not with her. Among a string of affairs that he had at the start of the 1980s was one with Jocelyn Reeves. And this relationship must have been among his more serious, because he had 2 children by Reeves. In 1986 Eastwood fathered son Scott with Reeves, and 2 years later daughter Catherine came into the world. These children's identities were kept secret, however, with Eastwood's name not even appearing on their birth certificates. It wasn't until Star magazine told all in 1990 that they were made public. Meanwhile, Locke knew nothing of Eastwood's continued philandering, and in 1989 they endured a bitter split. For more than 10 years, in fact, they fought out the aftermath in court. Eastwood settled a palimony suit by setting up a film deal for Locke with Warner Brothers, but allegedly the arrangement turned out to be a sham. The whole affair ended with out-of-court payoffs to Locke from both Eastwood and the studio. In the meantime, Eastwood hooked up with a string of women. They ranged from musical star Barbra Streisand to Steve McQueen's widow Barbara Minty, and even included the mayor of Carmel by the Sea, the coastal California town where he himself would later serve as mayor. Among those lovers was Frances Fisher, an actress Eastwood had first encountered on set. She set up home with him in 1990, and their relationship would last for another 4 years. According to Patrick McGilligan's Clint, Fisher said of their liaison, "I simply felt that this was it, the big one." Daughter Francesca arrived in 1993, the first of his children whose birth Eastwood had witnessed firsthand. That wasn't enough to keep the couple together, however. Eastwood subsequently began seeing news presenter Dina Ruiz. However, Ruiz wasn't to be just another girlfriend for Eastwood. He made her the second Mrs. Eastwood in March 1996. And it seemed that he had finally found the perfect woman, saying of Ruiz, "She's the one I've been waiting for," according to the Toronto Star. Indeed, Ruiz became the mother of Eastwood's last child, Morgan, in 1996. The marriage didn't last, however, ending in divorce at the end of 2004. At that point, and for years afterwards, although there was some doubt about exactly how many children Eastwood had sired, he had publicly acknowledged 7 of them. But an Instagram post by one of those kids, Morgan, at last revealed a closely kept Eastwood secret. As the Star's extended family gathered for the premiere of The Mule in December 2018, the cat was let out of the bag as 8 Eastwood progeny were snapped in one image for the first time. And Morgan Eastwood couldn't contain her excitement. She told her Instagram followers, "So rare for all 8 Eastwood siblings to be in one room." Sister Allison echoed her, writing, "I'm not sure there has ever been a picture of all 8 kids together, but here it is." It turned out that Eastwood had finally chosen to publicly acknowledge a daughter he had kept secret for years. Apparently, he had gotten a girlfriend whom he'd been seeing during his engagement to Maggie Johnson pregnant. He hadn't known about the baby, though, and she had subsequently been adopted. 3 decades earlier, Eastwood's daughter Lori Murray had tracked him down. He had welcomed her, and they'd since become close. The two had enjoyed holidays with each other, for instance, and shared time on the golf course. Sharp-eyed observers might even have spotted Murray arm in arm with Eastwood's mother, Ruth Wood, at the Oscars in 2004. Indeed, Murray apparently wasn't the best kept of secrets, a friend reportedly told the Daily Mail in December 2018. "We always wondered why it was never really widely known or widely acknowledged before," they said. He took Lori to the Oscars around the time that he was nominated for Mystic River with his mom and Dina. "Everyone in Lakewood knows that Clint Eastwood is her father and have done for about 20 years, the friend continued. However, Murray doesn't use the Eastwood name and lives quietly in the Washington town. Her mother, meanwhile, didn't wish to speak to her daughter after Murray tracked her down. Murray is herself a mom, with 2 children of her own. Those children, LT and Kelsey, have a good relationship with Eastwood. Indeed, they've even enjoyed a ski holiday with him. And LT is complimentary about his grandfather, telling the Daily Mail, "He's been a great father to my mom and always great to me and my family whenever we see him. And Eastwood has certainly been there for his grandkids. He was at LT's wedding in 2012, for instance, and even hosted Kelsey's 2016 marriage." It turns out, too, that people in LT's life have long known that he's related to the movie star. A friend of LT's spoke about that understanding with the Daily Mail. They said, "Everyone knew that Clint was his grandfather when he was in school. And LT certainly does look a lot like a younger Eastwood." Indeed, rumors of Murray's existence had been out there for years. But it took the premiere of The Mule for Eastwood to publicly acknowledge the child from the days before he became one of Hollywood's biggest and most enduring names. The secret he kept for 3 decades is now out in the open. Share and subscribe Star News 24/24's channel. Thank you for watching video.